Welcome again. I'm Laura Garza, and welcome to a special session of the Universal Weather and Aviation Ops webinar series. I'll be your host for today's session, where we'll be highlighting what's new in Feasibility-IQ, which is great timing as we're right in the middle of the busy summer season. But first, just a little housekeeping. Please stay on mute for the best audio experience. Your video, please turn on your video if you can. It's a great way to put faces with names. The time, we hope to wrap up within 45 minutes to an hour, depending on whether you have any live questions. Recording, we are going to record this session and the link will be sent to everyone who registered, and you are free to share this demo with other members of your team. Screen view, we're going to be sharing a view into the Feasibility-IQ tool during the session. And just as an FYI, sometimes Zoom can be a little sneaky about hiding additional screens. So if you have multiple monitors, please keep an eye out for that when we start the screen share. And finally, the chat. The chat window is where we'll collect questions for the live Q&A at the end of the program, and where my co-host Timothy Steiner will be dropping useful links throughout the session. Plus, we also have one of our product team members, Justin Murray, live with us, and he will be answering some questions in the chat just so you get those responses quickly. So let's get the chat going with some links. Timothy, can you go ahead and drop the link and email for more information about Feasibility-IQ and the 30-day free trial, please? Okay, let's go ahead. I'm going to set the stage. Like I mentioned, today we're taking a fresh look at Feasibility-IQ. As we're in the peak of summer travel season, we'll look at how Feasibility-IQ will help you determine if your trips are even feasible and help you make quick ASAP decisions when plans change. And for our experienced users, this is a great time to get a refresher on some features you might not be using that can really save you time. And then we'll check out new features that are coming, specifically the upcoming permits capability that will save you a ton of time assessing overflight and landing permits during your mission planning. So let's go ahead and jump in. I'm happy to introduce Monica Campos, product owner for Feasibility-IQ. Monica, welcome back to the webinar stage. It's so good to have you. Uh, can you go ahead and get things started with an overview of Feasibility-IQ and share some of those power user tips that could help both our new and experienced users on the call?
Thank you. There we go. Sorry. Took me a second to find my mic. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Laura, for the introduction. I am really excited to be able to share with you guys the latest and greatest that we have for Feasibility-IQ. Let me go ahead and share my screen. We've got a lot to look at today. When you come into UVigo, this is the way that the screen looks. It's going to open you up in missions, but immediately you can go into Feasibility-IQ. Once FIQ permits goes live, you'll have this option to choose between the two. I'm going to start with airports just to give an overview of what we already have with Feasibility-IQ. There is a scenario that I like to go through, particularly now that the med season is getting started, and since we have probably a lot of people who are heading over there. Let's say that your principal has a meeting in London and he likes Stansted. It is cheaper, it is easier, it is more spacious, and he doesn't mind the commute to the city. From there, his son is going to come along with him, and his son has a roommate with him at college, and the roommate's Greek, and they're going to give him a ride home. So they're going to stop in Milan on the way, and then they're going to go from there to Greece to help uh, the roommate get home. They're going to stop in Paros just because why not hit one of the Greek islands, just have a good time. And then maybe stop in Paris on the way back for the Summer Olympics. So right off the bat, we're seeing if a landing permit is going to be required. Do you need any slots? Is it an airport of entry? What are the PPR requirements? The security rating of the location. Your handlers are available to you right off the bat. If you want to change the handler, you can change that here. If you are Part 91 for all legs, you can do it at the trip level. If you want to change it by leg, you can do so on each leg. We're going to keep it Part 91 because that just makes life so much easier. I want to draw attention to the fact that if you have a major event like the Italian Grand Prix or the Summer Olympics, we're going to highlight that on every single screen because we do link a blog that we create consolidating all of the information for that event so that if anything changes for operations, you're aware of it. We don't want to change it within the actual information because you may not be traveling during that event, but we want to highlight it and make sure that you're aware of it so that you can make plans accordingly. Let's indicate the nationalities on board. Really important if we're going to get our correct visa entry information. So let's say we have some American crew members, and in this case, we have also some Canadian. So you have to use either the name of the country or the ISO code so that you can find the locations. And as far as passengers go, we have American passengers, we have the Greek passenger, Greece, so you see there. And then we also have a British associate who's going to be coming along. So you can copy it to all locations. You can take people off as you arrive, change anything that you need to just to make it easier, or however, just ease and efficiency is the name of the game. When you hit on get info and the time that it takes me to say the sentence, now I have at one stroke consolidated all of the information for all of those locations, everything that we could think of that we can conceivably gather and curate for you all at one fingertip. One of the things that we do like to, one of the newest changes, so you see here the highlight of the Summer Olympics. We do create the blog so that you can go there. It gives you all of the information that we have gathered together for the Olympics, so you know everything that's going on for it. One of the things that we did add most recently is this table right here. Previously, we just listed what the ICAOs are that are suggested by that location for repositioning, particularly if it's busy, if it's a very well-trafficked airport. What we have added has been this miles and kilometers distance from the desired location and how long it takes to drive there. Adding that situational awareness, adding more information so you can make more educated plans. Again, information is the name of the game to make sure that your trip is well planned and feasible for you to accomplish. So that's one thing that I wanted to highlight. We offer operating hours. What time is the airport open? Customs hours, we list those separately because the customs hours don't always match the operating hours. One of the things that I do like to point out particularly is the crew and passenger logistics. Anything that has to do with the crew and passengers, honestly, I like to show. Here we highlight how far in advance from departure they should arrive at the airport, because maybe you're going off the path, you're not entirely sure of how long you need to be there beforehand. Rather than pull the passengers off the beach too soon or have them running to the airport, we've asked that question beforehand so you can look like the superstars that you are and have that information ready and already available for your passengers. Also, whether or not gen decks are required to be physically on the aircraft and whether or not the handler can help you with that. Sounds like a silly thing, but you guys know it's not always the case. They can't always help. Airport level permissions offer slots and PPRs, what the tolerances are, how far in advance you need them, any pertinent information, and whether or not you need to obtain those and what they're required for. Flight planning information, including any kind of weight that we've been able to get our hands on from the AIPs. We also monitor events, city, country, worldwide events that could affect operations, hotels, traffic, strikes, anything like that, so that you're aware of what's going on while you're operating to your location. Additional information is included in every category, and it's really a catch-all of anything that's important to know about that section that doesn't really fit into any other section. One I really want to focus on is location trends. Location trends is something that we do together with WingX. They make it their business to know what kind of aircraft have come in and what kind of aircraft have come out. So remember, we said that we were going to Greece and we're going to do a little bit of island hopping. And I've never been to Paris. I don't know if it'll take my aircraft. So with this tool, I can come in and see what aircraft have come into Paros in the last year. I could change the date range even to go within the summer months so that I can accurately look at the peak months and travel seasons and what it means for me. But here you can see what aircraft have been into Paros in that date range. So if you find your aircraft there, now you know. I'm in a Global Express. Mazel tov. They've had 44 Global Expresses in the last year. We're good to go. One more that I wanted to point out is the peak times of the day and the week. Now, Paros is a smaller island, so it's not really been a big issue. But what we have done is we have averaged out every Sunday, every Monday, every Tuesday, and so on and so forth in the date range that you stipulated to show you how many arrivals and how many departures have happened on that day. And not only that, but what are the busiest times? Again, Paros, small island, not too terribly busy. You can probably come in anytime that they're open. But when you're coming into Paris and the boss decides that he wants to go in or needs to go in on the busiest day of the week at the busiest hour of the day, maybe that's the time that he needs to go. but at least you have that information available and you can give him that information. Let him know, okay, boss, I know this is when you got to go. Be aware, busiest day, busiest hour, expectations set. Again, you guys end up looking like rock stars, really what we're looking for. In the handler information, again, we have it set up by handler. If you wanted to change your handler up there, it would, of course, change the information that's available for that handler. We offer what time is the handler open, what parking is available for that handler, not what parking is available right now, but what parking spaces exist for that handler, including hangar space. Crew and passenger logistics is, again, one that we really love to include, particularly for those very well trafficked locations. What's going to happen with off terminal clearance? Can you do it off terminal? Do you have to go into the terminal? What's going to happen with the aircraft? Are they going to park it on the hazmat ramp? Are they going to bring it to the FBO? Do you have to release your passengers over at the terminal and then taxi over the FBO? Really just awareness for you so you know what to expect. Any kind of walking distance, shuttle and mobility considerations. What do you do with your passports? Can you hand them to the handler? Do you have to hold on to them for the customs agent? Is the customs agent uniformed? Are they going to take it out of your site? Any kind of scenario, just so that you were aware going in, so everybody knows what's happening and nobody is concerned with what is going on with their actual passports. Luggage handling, super important for those crazy locations where they actually make the passengers remove their luggage on their own and every single piece needs to be screened or physically opened. Now you know ahead of time, you can inform the passengers, expectations, and information, name of the game. Meeting point for transportation. Landside means they have to go through the FBO and pick them up in the street. If this said airside, the vehicle would be able to pick them up on the ramp next to the aircraft. But this gives you that information so you're aware beforehand. Can they go onto the ramp? Do they have to go through the FBO? And what address to give to the transportation companies that they can meet the passengers. On departure, similarly, what security procedures, what is the passenger going to have to go through for departure, where to spend, what meeting location for them to meet with the agent for those processes to depart, and what address to give to the transportation company for dropping the passengers off. The ground service equipment that's available at the location, always a fan favorite, and again, any additional information. We also offer country information, beginning with landing permit. I'm going to put a pin in right here because we'll talk a little bit more about permit requirements in the tool that I'm going to show off. We also offer APIS requirements and, again, additional information. APIS requirements are also hyperlinked at the top for any of the 5 top most important pieces of information. We've hyperlinked those at the very top. For restrictions, we offer geopolitical restrictions, which are nationality based. Are there any restrictions against crew members, registries, operators, or passengers of a certain nationality, and any link or source information that we can give. For that, we also have itinerary restrictions. Where can you not overfly? Where can you not go? Where can you not come from for that location? In health requirements, I do want to note that in the entry general information, despite this saying COVID, we do still maintain disinfection and spray requirements. Since we're going to Italy, this is where we want to look to make sure that we do have the requirements necessary to enter. And then in the vaccinations others section, also including in any of the countries, what are the requirements for anything outside of COVID? We are moving towards including all diseases, but for now, that general information is key for the spray requirements, as is the vaccinations of others. To talk about Zika, monkeypox, Ebola, yellow fever, any of those things will be listed in the others category. For bubbling information, we offer hotel information, catering arrangements, and transportation arrangements. Security, we do in connection with Crisis 24 in partnership with them. They offer us city ratings, country ratings, and local intel. In local intel, one of my favorite parts of local intel being emergency contact numbers and addresses for all of the embassies in their location. And one of the stars of the show is entry requirements that we do in coordination and partnership with Thematic. Together with Thematic, we have partnered together to have crew information by nationality across the top, including any entry documents or anything like that that might be required for that location. Likewise for passengers, if you change the nationalities, it'll give you the different requirements going into that location. And one of the gems of the information is the country information, which gives you the currency, import and export limitations, airport tax, and customs. What can you import? What if you're going on a hunting trip? What do you do with arms and munitions? What can you export? And lo and behold, on top of everything else with all of our passengers and everything that we're planning on doing, just so happens that the roommate that's coming with the son, the Greek roommate, happens to have a ferret. And we need to bring the ferret along. What do we do to get that ferret into England? No worries. Tematic has got that information for us. We've made it available to you here all together in one place so you can be completely prepared and have everything that you need to go into locations, even with ferrets. We offer NOTAM information coming from those locations. They are initially filtered by anything that will close the location. So anything that's for a strike, so disruptions, social, industrial, unusable, unserviceable, anything like that is offered here. We filter them that way because everybody here knows that you can be reading NOTAMs until the day you die and still have 40 pages to go. Or if you choose to, you can look at all of the NOTAMs and not just filter them for things that make things unusable or completely shut down. We also have FIR NOTAMs, and then hot topics is divided into regulatory and destination insights. Regulatory, bringing together any rules for that region, new and old, as long as they're still in operation, so that you know what you're going to need. ELISA, CORSIA, all those things that come out, and we have to know what's going on with them. Here, it'll give you all the information that you need for those locations. It's a lot. I know that was very high level, but I wanted to make sure that we made it through all of the information so you guys can see everything that's available to you today at FIQ.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Monica. And now this is very exciting. Can you go ahead and share what's new and coming to Feasibility-IQ?
Absolutely, absolutely. It is actually very exciting. So we have made available, we've heard for a very long time, you guys have always said, what about overflight permits? How am I going to know what I'm going to need for overflight? This is where I'm going to pick back with the landing permit information that we had on the previous page. Before, FIQ or the airport side of FIQ just looks at every place as a destination. It doesn't know where you're coming from, where you're going to, so we weren't able to offer overflight information. But now we will have all of your aircraft listed in your account. You can choose your aircraft, the Mach that you want to fly, what your FAR type is. Very important because, as we all know, FAR type very much dictates what permits are going to be required for those locations. Let's just start with a simple Part 91. It's going to be a business flight. We default the airworthiness level to standard. If you have a non-standard airworthiness certificate, you need to indicate that because, again, that changes the requirements for permits. And tech stop, we default to not a tech stop, but again, that also affects whether or not you're going to need a permit. So if you are on a tech stop, you want to notice that and make sure that you indicate that here. Let's say that we're coming from Lagos and we need to go down to Cape Town. Just put in your locations there. Now, we know that everybody has their flight plan engine and everybody makes their plans, and you've already run your flight plans and you know where you're going and you know what you want to do. So we have made this so that you can just cut and paste from your location, select the route that you want to do and just drop it down into this custom route right here. If we had already put that before and we had clicked on get route, that offers you some options. So I'm going to go ahead and click that now so you can just see what it would have looked like had I done that first. It gives you suggestions from the things that we have. But again, we know and appreciate that you use your own flight plan engines, whether it be Universal OFP, if you have ForeFlight, just copy that route from there, drop it in here, and you can overlay that route onto a map so you can see what areas it does overfly, if it's going to be over land, if it's going to be out over water. I have chosen Africa because it has a big combination of firs, land masses. I'm over this landmass, but I'm under this airspace. I'm out over water, but Gabon still requires a landing or an overflight permit. All of those things will be taken into consideration. So today, if you require permits or you have a leg that is likely going to require permits, what do? You ask the team, you send it into your ISP. You guys say, hey, can you figure this out for me? Tell me what permits I'm going to need. TSS will run the flight plan. They will plot that flight plan. They will take note of every airspace that they enter and they exit. They will take note of every landmass that they overfly and that they don't overfly. They will take note of every rule for those land masses or those countries in the nearby area, aka the Gabones of the world, that you're not over landmass or airspace, but they still have requirements for them. They will take in the nationality of your aircraft into consideration. They will take in your FAR type into consideration. All of these things running through a human brain, plotting, looking, observing, reading, bringing all of that together. And it has taken me longer to explain this process than it has for this tool to work it out. So here we see all of these locations, what airspaces that they are flying over, whether it's a FIR, a landmass, or Gabon, and it's random extraterritorial airspace that they have indicated that they need a permit for, but really wouldn't be picked up by airspace or landmass. When you entered that airspace, at what waypoint, how high you were at those in that airspace, when you exited, at what waypoint, whether or not the permit is required, and what the lead time is for those permits. If you have taken off or if you have indicated a departure date that is within 1 day to 3 days before the lead time of the country, then it will show up red. So Nigeria has indicated they have 2 business days of a lead time. We are within 3 days of those 2 days. So it's red because we're under the gun. Considering weekends and holidays, we might be late on time already. Let's get cracking. We got to get these requests, these permits requested. If it is between 3 and 7 days, we indicate them in an orangish yellow color to indicate it's a little bit of a warning. Have some time to think it over, mull it over, and decide if you want to do this. And if it's green, it's greater than 7 days. You have a significant amount of time that you can talk things through and make decisions. But this gives you instant situational awareness. Are we in danger? Are we going to be able to get these permits? Or do we have some time to be able to comfortably get them and be able to instruct and advise the passenger accordingly? Setting those expectations on the front end. You don't have to send anything in. You don't have to ask anybody any questions. You don't have to wait for all of that process to take place and then come back and finally have an answer for your principal. You can just it up real quick. This is going to be available on iPad and laptop, and give the information in such a faster time frame. I did also want to point out that when you click on the countries, it'll tell you what kind of permit you're looking for or what type of permit you're looking at in that location, what documents you're going to need for that permit so that you can review your files with Universal and already know beforehand if you have everything on file for them, what the AIP lead time is, and the processing time, the average time that Universal has experienced in the last 3 years for these locations. We also, if it's a country that doesn't require the permit every single time, it will give you the reasons why the permit is required. So let's take a look at another scenario just like that. Instead of going to from Lagos, let's do a charter flight. Let's do a charter flight. It's going to be a passenger flight from, in our example before, we were going from London and we wanted to go down to Milan. And I have a route that I already figured out from my ISP over here. And let's look what that route looks like. Hit enter, it plotted it out. You can see the countries that I'm going to overfly. Again, it's a charter flight, and I calculate that route. And one thing that I wanted to point out in particular, the reason that I did this, we flew into Stansted as a Part 91. Flying into Stansted, it would tell me that the permit would not be required upon landing because it's a private flight, but now I'm departing as a 135. So when I don't go through the whole process, this is running a flight plan in the background. So we will need your aircraft to be loaded and to our system so that we can run a flight plan. It will not charge you for flight plans. It will not affect your OFP status. And it won't file anything. It's just running a flight plan in the background. But we see here that now I'm departing out of the UK as a Part 135 and a permit is required. I wanted to highlight this because departure permits isn't really something that historically we've talked about at Universal. So we wanted to highlight that if a permit is required as a departure permit, it is possible that it may have been required as an entry. So take a look at that, make sure that you keep that in mind. We've also introduced the idea of a recommended permit, aka Malaysia and Indonesia coming in and out of Singapore. You may not plan to overfly Malaysia. You may not plan to overfly Indonesia, but you're so close that we recommend that you get those permits anyway. And that's a recommendation that comes from their CAAs. So We internally have taken that very seriously. They recommend it, we get it because we want you to be prepared and covered. But I wanted you to know that that was the case with those permits going out so that you also can be aware of why you see something that's recommended. That's kind of a new thing. But here you see why permits would be required for the UK, as well as any nationality. And if see in Italy will also show those itinerary restrictions of what you can overfly and what you can't overfly, again, for that situational awareness. All of this information within seconds, right at your fingertips, all consolidated and compiled together for one trip. We're really excited to make this offer.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Monica. We love everything about this feature. Now I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Timothy, who's ready with some pre-submitted questions. And while we go through these questions, don't forget to ask the experts live in the chat. Timothy will be collecting those questions for the end of today's session. But Timothy, I'll go ahead and hand it over to you.
Alrighty, so first question, how does this service benefit DIY versus communicating with the handler on the slot and permit requirements?
Communicating with the handler, time. Time is often of the essence with our operations, particularly being in the know with your principal, right? So your principal asks you, I want to go here tomorrow. Some of us have the luxury of a little bit more time, but still, this is the same information, not only within permits, but also within the airport side of the house. We have gone through the trouble of consolidating the information, gathering the questions, vetting information, and making it available to you so that not only do you have it at, at the touch of the finger, but you don't have to wait for office hours at those locations. If it's the middle of the night, you have to wait for them to open in the morning, respond to an email. Do they get to it today? Do they get to it tomorrow? And on top of that, it increases efficiency and reduces the requirements on both sides. So not only do you have it quickly, they've already asked the question, the handler has already responded, and they don't have to stop paying attention to an aircraft on the line to answer an email, which just might be your aircraft.
Great. And then another question, do I have to have a universal flight planning subscription to use this permit feature?
No, like I mentioned, we do have to have your aircraft specs in our system, but you don't have to have an OFP subscription with us. And again, it will not affect anything on that side of the house. We're not filing or technically running a flight plan for you. It's just something that we have to have. That is how we know exactly where you are in location. We do run a flight plan in the background. It is transparent to you, but it knows where you are on arrival, where you are in departure, how high you are, when you arrive there, and even passing through different FIRs. If, like, say, for example, you're going through Burundi and Tanzania, are you in the Burundi airspace? Are you in the Tanzania airspace? Which permit are you going to require? All of those things it takes into consideration.
Right. And then one last question, how do we know that the permit feature is catching all the requirements?
How we know how accurate it is? We have tested this thousands upon thousands of times. We began last October to test this very, very often. We did thousands of tests before we were confident that it was as accurate enough to use internally. And in February, we went live internally. The mission advisors use this tool to determine permits today. And we just added many more thousands of runs to those instances. This tool is reliable.
All right. And it looks like we have a live question. Is it possible to add a civil aviation contract details where you need to apply for each permit? And that is from.
Can you read that again?
Is it possible to add a civil aviation contract details where you need to apply for each permit?
The location of where to apply for each permit.
Yes.
We are working towards that. That's something that we do have on our roadmap. It's just not where we have gotten to just yet.
Great, thank you. I think that's all the questions from the live, unless anybody else has a question.
Okay. Okay, if that's all the questions, thank you so much, Monica. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to Monica, Justin, Timothy. We appreciate your insights and sharing your time, talent, and expertise. As we wrap up today, Remember, you can find out more about the 30-day free trial for Feasibility-IQ at the link that Timothy is dropping into the chat right now, or simply reach out to your account manager for a customized one-on-one demo, pricing details, and any questions. You can also connect with us by sending us an email to operationalinsight@univay.com. I can make sure the product team gets your ideas. They are enhancing the tool all the time. And the link for today's session will be out tomorrow. So take care, and I hope to see y'all again soon at our next webinar. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.